Hi, good morning. My name's Joshua McDonald. I'm a software engineering manager for Amazon's global media and entertainment organization.
And I'm Logan Brown. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm a senior manager for security engineering in Amazon Global Media and Entertainment Security.
Right, and you're here today because you work in security and you're probably juggling a lot of issues, and you probably have tickets, you have deadlines, you have priorities. And if you're like most people, you're probably wondering, how can I get teams to be more secure or more proactive with the tickets that I give them or the issues that I raise? So imagine that you're standing in a grocery store and you're looking at a shelf with water bottles, and one bottle it costs $4 and one bottle costs $2. You're all sitting there and thinking, I'm going to pick the $2 bottle because I'm a rational person, right? That's what I'm going to do. Economic theory suggests that we're just rational actors calculating opportunity costs and making perfectly logical choices to maximize our happiness. But here's where it gets interesting. We're all really bad at making rational choices. You probably bought the $4 bottle of water, probably when you were coming here at the airport. We buy it all the time. Maybe it's placed in a better place at the store. Maybe the bottle looks nicer. Maybe you didn't even notice that the $2 bottle was there. We make emotional decisions and we fall for marketing tricks. And we often make choices against our best interests. So understanding this tension between theoretical rationality and actual human behavior isn't just academic. It's the key to security campaigns that work and ones that flounder. So what if I told you that you could achieve double-digit percentages of increase in the time it takes engineers to close tickets just by changing a couple words on your ticket?
So before we dive in, I want to introduce you to an idea from the book Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. In it, they talk about a concept called a choice architect. A choice architect is anybody who designs the way choices are presented to people. And you're all choice architects, whether you know it or not. We create environments, whether it's your software or your workflows or your security protocols, that influence how people make decisions.
All right, let's talk about choice architecture for just a minute. Imagine the last time you went to the grocery store. Did any of you reach the bottom shelf and pick up the item, or did you go to the top shelf and pick the item up? Chances are you didn't. The eye level of the grocery store is actually called buy level in marketing. And so in the world of retail, this plays a really big, it's a really big factor. Like, companies will actually pay a premium to be at that buy level. So essential items like milk and bread are often placed in the very back of the store. And if you notice, produce might be placed in the front. And the reason why that is because you're going to walk through the front of the doors, you're going to hit the produce aisle, maybe grab some fruit. Now you're thinking, oh, I'm healthy, I've made the right choices, and now I'm going to send you through Doritos and all the snacks, right? So even the order of the aisles will influence your spending. Many stores place I'm sorry, I hit the front, so I'm not reading those. The supermarket scenario is just one example of how choice architecture subtly shapes our decisions every day. It's not always manipulative. Sometimes it's used to promote healthier choices and more sustainable choices, but being aware of these influences can help us make conscious decisions, whether at the grocery store or anywhere else.
So where do we start? The biggest thing is we have to focus on making it easy. People will do what is easy. They follow the easiest path. We talk about things like secure defaults. We talk about making it easy for our developers and reducing friction. So let's look at some real-world experiments that we performed in global media and entertainment security against our Prime Video, games, music, and Wondery teams that had some pretty surprising results.
All right, this might not look super familiar to everybody that doesn't work at Amazon, but I'm sure that you all have a ticketing system and that you're informing your engineers of security issues. So imagine you run an engineering team, and every week you get tickets like this, and you've got a severity, you have a link, and you have a due date. So it's sort of not information rich. So we would naturally follow the link, we'd figure out what the issue is, and then we would assign this to an engineer. So we added application name, and we added AWS account. These two small changes, it took an engineer literally 2 hours to implement this, and the results of this small change is 15.9% reduction across Prime Video, Amazon Studios, Audible, Amazon Music, Wondery, and the time it takes for an engineer to actually close that security ticket. So this could be attributed to a couple things. It's pretty easy to assign an engineer if you know the app or the AWS account, and especially when you're juggling a lot of applications per team.
So why did this work? Research suggests that generic security announcements are a lot less useful than targeted notifications that are integrated into the developer workflows. We figured out what the developers were doing with the security tickets, and we helped give them the information that made that process easier. According to GitHub's 2023 security report, developers are a lot more likely to respond to automated alerts that provide specific context and actionable remediation steps. So this brings us into nudge theory. I mentioned before Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. They developed this framework for how we as choice architects can design environments that help people make the right decisions, help people make the decisions we want them to make without restricting their choice. So in other words, a nudge is a small design that makes it easier for people to make a good decision. For instance, think about how companies enroll people in 401k plans. You probably are all in a 401k plan. Fidelity found that if people are auto-enrolled, there's nearly 87% participation rate compared to only 52% for manually enrolled plans. So you're not forced to save for retirement, but people are nudged in that direction and it works.
So let's go over some of these nudges or biases. The first one is hyperbolic discounting. This is a fancy term for something we all do, which is choose immediate rewards over long-term gains. Think about it in the context of your work. As an engineer, what feels more satisfying? Closing the tickets in that sprint, getting it done, or working on a long task with a few checkpoints that you're only going to get done months from now. So if you're a security team and you're thinking about, how do I format my tickets, break them down into smaller tasks or smaller deliverables, and you're going to get more traction with the engineering teams. Consider gamifying security tasks. Consider a point system, a progress bar, a leaderboard. Highlight and celebrate all the incremental changes that the engineering teams are doing on your security tasks. And don't wait until the end of a major project to acknowledge progress. Provide clear short-term benefits. And this could be anything from public recognition, and maybe you have something like shout-outs or some kind of recognition tool in your companies. Use that, utilize that.
So what if I told you that you could win $150 if a flipped coin comes up heads? Would you do it? Okay, I see some nods. Now let me change the scenario slightly. What if you would lose $100 if it comes up tails? You still take the bet? Probably not. So research suggests that humans feel the pain of loss twice as intensely as gain. And so we can use this to make automated patching solutions or things like that better for our customers. We can say, you'll save 3 hours per week using this new system. That might get a lukewarm response. However, if we tell them that they're currently losing 3 hours every week because they're not using the system, the uptake will be significant, the pain will be felt more for those builders. We've triggered their loss aversion instinct. Now, you do have to be careful about this because there are some ways this can be misused, but being able to say your team is exposed to vulnerabilities that could lead to incidents hits harder than this tool will improve your security posture.
Let's talk about social proof. It's the idea that we look to others to guide our actions. The funny thing about this is this really kicks in when we're uncertain or unsure about what we're going to do. Think about the last time you faced a problem that you were uncertain about. Did you ask for advice? The key here is you're creating security tickets for engineers. And I'm an engineer. We weren't really trained in all of the depths of the security world that you are. So I may be uncertain. I may be looking to others to see what I'm going to do with this ticket. This tendency is deeply ingrained in us. It's a mental shortcut. It saves energy. And we also feel more confident about our decisions when we look to others. In the world of security, you can leverage this to drive better practices, but it's all about the right message at the right time. Generic security advice falls flat. You need to be meeting the engineering teams with relevant, personal, and customized information. Here's how it might look in practice. Imagine sending out a security compliance report that shows how the team's performance is doing. And you started off with the sentence, your team's resolved more than 90% of the high priority issues that you have. Now you've already sort of created this environment where they know that other teams are also playing this game and they're at 90%. So you've also triggered a little bit of loss aversion with that statement. So this is an example of an email that we sent out. We created a system, so we're sending out emails to teams across Amazon's media industry. And you can see here, if you've been listening, there's a few of the prompts in here. So you're a high impact team, so social proof. Now, this week, next sprint, this is hyperbolic discounting. And I've given you actually sort of a roadmap. You don't really have to think about it. Just do this, do that, and then in the next sprint, and we'll be happy about this ticket getting closed. And then at the end, we give you the threat of escalation to leadership, right? Loss aversion.
So it's not just email, it's not just ticketing systems. We have lots of communication mechanisms available to us, and it's multimodal. And these nudges work in all forms of human communication, whether it's written or spoken, visual, or Slack messages. You can get people's attention, and once you have their attention, that little bit of communication really matters.
Okay, so emotion leads to action. And reason leads to communications. And you're really just appealing to the emotional side of the individuals. Remember hyperbolic discounting, loss aversion, and social proof? If you go read the book, there's many more that you can pull on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. We'll be right over here if you have any questions.